the Gerontological Society of America, Advancing Innovation in Aging. GSA on Aging. I'm Howard Degenholtz, social media editor of The Gerontologist, a bi-monthly publication of the Gerontological Society of America. I've always been skeptical about using robots as a therapeutic tool. It always seemed to me that there are lots of pets and animals up for adoption all the time, and that using robots or toys when you could have a real animal or a real cat or dog would provide superior experience and would also allow otherwise unwanted and unhomed pets to have a job. So when I saw an article about the use of therapeutic robots in nursing homes, I came at it from the perspective of, well, why shouldn't we be putting resources into helping dogs and cats that are otherwise in shelters have an opportunity to interact with people? So I interviewed Wendy Moyle about her research, which just came out in The Gerontologist, and had a really wonderful and interesting conversation with her. And I'm persuaded. I think that her research and what's very exciting is that there's a whole trove of research coming out in The Gerontologist on this topic. I think it really shows the way forward to how we can make better environments for older people, and also shows the shortcoming of my own thoughts on this matter. So, Wendy, I saw your paper in The Gerontologist. She had a smile on her face, and I thought it looked very interesting, and I wanted to talk to you about it. So, can you tell me what got you interested in using this therapeutic robot?
Quite some time ago, Howard, and really it happened because I happened to start seeing different types of robots being used or kept in nursing homes and not being used. And when I asked people, or staff, I guess, why they had them, why they purchased them, it really seemed to be that there was an interest, but no one really knew how to use them. Mm-hmm. And there seemed to be an interest, but people really weren't certain about the effectiveness of them. So we started, I think we published our first paper in 2013, which was a small trial of using the social robot called Paro. And I was actually surprised by the results. So we went forward and managed, luckily, in this very difficult climate, to get quite a substantial amount of money from our Australian National Health and Medical Research Council, and so we investigated this use of the robot in a large, very rigorous scaled trial.
So, Wendy, so it sounds like you observed that some nursing facilities had purchased these robots but were not using them or not using them consistently. Were those places also working with pet therapy as well?
Yes, in Australia I would say probably about 99% of the nursing homes have a dog, and often that dog is either a resident dog or it's brought in by staff and it's left there for the day. I always had a lot of concern about pet therapy, and mainly because there's quite strong evidence that shows that they get very stressed. And in Australia, there's actually vets who are saying, we shouldn't be using live pet therapy in nursing homes.
Really?
Because the animals, so in our nursing homes in Australia, they're quite large. Large being probably the smallest is 80 beds, mm-hmm. and they'll go up to about 250. Dogs tend to be one-person master, so they like to go towards one person. And yes. You have a dog and you have 80, 100 people, vying for its attention. It really doesn't know where to go. And what you'll see is they get quite fat because staff and also residents feed them under the table, etc., and so they don't get as much exercise. They also have been known to, run and knock elderly residents over and cause a fractured neck of their femur. So there is some problems. They take staff away from resident care to go out and hygiene them or to toilet them. So while they may be lovely, not everyone also likes them. So, some people are scared of dogs or, like dogs. So they do have some problems. So I guess I've always worked in the area of technology. So this did interest me as an alternative as well.
That's very interesting. So I guess I always imagined that interactions with a therapy dog or even a cat would be facilitated. But what you're describing sort of sounds like the animal is free rein in the facility.
So there are some facilitated sessions where, for example, organisations may be asked to bring in an animal. So it could be, it could be sheep or rabbits or something like that. Yeah. In those sorts of sessions, it is facilitated in that people come in, bring them, they might show them in a sort of show and tell and, allow people to have them for a set amount of time. The resident dogs tend to be just as they would at home, walk around, do what they want to, go to whoever they want to. So, so it's probably slightly different. There are some dogs from the Blind Society, for example, that will come in and they're facilitated, and really it's a two-way process of the dogs getting used to being among people and the people are getting used to the dog. Yes. But on the whole, most of the dogs are really there for, the idea is that they're making it a home-like environment. So, let's bring a dog in.
I have a question for you about the Paro. Couple questions. One is that it seems like it's very expensive. And
it's very, very expensive.
So my question about that is, boy, could you have the same results with a commercial toy like a Furby?
Yeah. So with so the large trial we did, we compared the effectiveness of the Paro. So very expensive. It's about $8,500 in Australia for one. Yes. We compared it to a Paro without the robotic features, so it looked exactly the same, but didn't do any of the movements, any of the robotic aspects. And then we compared it to Usual Care. Sorry?
Yes. I have a question for you about the control version.
Yes.
Was it stiff, or was it like a soft stuffed animal?
Like a soft stuffed animal. So Paros it's firm, but it is like a large soft animal, I guess. It weighs about 2.7 kilos. People would say it's about the size of a newborn baby, but it's a bit longer than that. Okay. But you can, hold it and cuddle it, etc. Yes. And what we found in the trial is that the Paro was more effective than the what we call plush toys, so the Paro without the robotics, but it wasn't significantly more effective. Right. So basically the recommendation we made was, certainly if you have the funds and can get hold of the funds, then the Paro is probably the better way to go. But if you can't, then you probably could just use a companion animal or stuffed toy, for example. But the cost is very interesting, Howard. I was always concerned, who can afford $8,500 for this small robot? What we also did is looked at the cost effectiveness of the robot, the plush toy, and also Usual Care. And what we found out was quite interesting. It wasn't as expensive as what it appeared, so it was very durable. We had very few incidences of it actually breaking or any problems. The main problems we had was with one woman who had severe frontal temporal dementia, and she used to throw it across the room. It broke a couple of noses and a paw, but on the whole it was very easily maintained. So we looked at the cost of the maintenance, etc., and it could be left with people and it could be shared by people. So as long as a rigorous infection control routine was followed. So when we put this all in terms of a health economic analysis, and that's certainly not my area, we had a health economist on the team, and she basically found that the Paro, even though it was more expensive than the plush toy, it came out actually cheaper than all other non-pharmacological interventions. So the cost of any non-pharmacological intervention is expensive. The main cost of them tends to be that they're facilitated. So if you take into account the staff involvement, etc., it makes them expensive. So on the whole, I guess what we're suggesting is that, it's probably not a good idea just to think this is $8,500, it's far too expensive. You need to think about how it would be used, how long it could be used for, what its impact would have, for example, on change in medications or reduction in staff time. And that's particularly the case if you have people, for example, who are constantly ringing bells, calling out. If this would calm them, that will also reduce staff time, and it will make staff feel much more favoured towards that resident who's quite difficult to manage.
What is the most surprising or unexpected finding that you've had in working with this?
For me, I think it's been that there's no gender difference. So I tended to imagine that, if that woman would be more likely to, enjoy having something that was soft and cuddly, but we haven't found that at all. Is that there seems to be no gender difference. Men like Paro equally. There are people who don't like it, and there are people who just adore it and want to keep using it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, there's a lot of men who have pets, and not just dogs but cats and soft, cuddly pets. So it doesn't surprise me too much that the tactile aspect of it would not be gendered. But perhaps it's the nurturing or caregiving component to it that was unexpected.
Well, I think, there's always, in any of the work that we do, there's always family involvement. Some families get very concerned that we're giving one of their family members something that might make them look like they're a child rather than, an adult. So there's always that concern. But interesting, in this study, I make an assumption it was the way that we introduced the study to Australia. We did a lot of, media releases. We did a lot of talks with facilities. So a lot of people got to know the sort of work we were doing. And when we put out for interest, we had no problems in recruitment, which is usually the opposite. If you ask any researcher, they'll tell you the struggles of recruitment. In this study, we had absolutely none. Whereas in other studies, for example, we've just recently finished a study looking at the effect of dolls, and that was incredibly difficult because families didn't want their family member to be given a doll, because that's what you do with children, you don't do with adults. And no one would allow a male to be involved in the study. There's a lot of attitudinal, issues here.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I was thinking about that because that's not uncommon to see with advanced Alzheimer's patients to have a doll or be attracted to holding a doll. And there are certainly dolls that have animatronic features to them, but I think your article really brings out something interesting about this particular toy, which is that it looks like an animal, but it doesn't look like a common pet, right? And you seem to have found that that's an important aspect of this particular toy, and it sounds like that's also relevant for family as much as the patients.
Absolutely. So if we introduced a robotic dog, people would know, that it was a dog, and they might associate it with, their dog, or they might associate it with a dog that they don't like and have concerns about. Whereas this is a very neutral animal, so when you look at it, I don't think any Australians, or probably Americans either, I'm not certain, have had pet seals, baby seals. And so when we introduce it, we tell the people involved, that this is a robotic seal, so we don't hide the fact that it's not a real live animal, etc. But it's very interesting to see the way that people react. It's almost like a discovery process, so they look at it, wonder what it's going to do, and then of course if they speak or touch it at all, because of the sensors that are inbuilt into the robot, it automatically starts to either look at them or move towards their voice or interact with them in some way. So it's this interactive process that it has that helps people to engage with it. And I know when I first started getting these robots, I brought one home just to see what it was like and what I could do with it. And I have two older sons and a husband, and I was very interested that, they sort of looked at it first and said, oh, what a stupid thing. It doesn't take people very long to actually start interacting with it. I see all sorts of people, who, I know even my Pro-Vice Chancellor used to make comments about it, but give it to him, you certainly see, I guess it's like this article, she had a smile on her face as white as a great Australian bite. That's what tends to happen with people when you actually give it. It's very cute. It's like a newborn baby in terms of, most of us like newborn babies and, coo and gar over them, and I think the same thing happens with this as well. It's that sort of internal nurturing effect it has also.
So it's very interesting. So you're saying that, I'm assuming that your Chancellor is cognitively normal and he enjoyed using it as well.
Yes, I'm saying that, if I bring it out to groups. So last week I spoke to a group of psychiatric interns. So, none of them, I'm sure, were cognitively impaired in any way. And when I brought the pyro out, I gave a talk on BPSD, and after the talk, when I brought the pyro out, just to see those people interacting with it, passing it around and looking at the way they interact, it seems to have the same effect no matter who you are or what you do.
That's very interesting. Well, Wendy, I want to wrap up this conversation because I know that we can keep talking, but it's been very nice talking with you, and I want to thank you for taking the time to talk about your research.
You're welcome, Howard.
So what I want to talk to you about today, Mom, is what do you think about giving people with dementia, like in a nursing home or assisted living, a robot pet to play with?
I saw something about this in the Times, I think. There was an article about it, but I didn't read it. I think it's a terrific idea. It depends upon how the robo-pet is programmed to interact with the person that it's assigned to, or however it's going to be done.
So this one, what it does is if you talk to it, it responds. The sounds that it makes are just pleasant cooing sounds.
Mm-hmm. Would a cooing sound be recognizable to somebody who is using this as a comfort animal or a, interactive?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Pet.
It's designed to look like a baby seal. You see the picture, right? Does it,
Okay. So you want it to have a sound like that.
It's not supposed to remind you of your long-lost dog. It's supposed to be a pleasant thing that you hold.
I have a question about that. If you're dealing with a patient with dementia, or even even farther along than that, why would you not want it to somebody who would have trouble recognizing a family member or an object that they're familiar with? Why would you not want the comfort robo animal to look and sound like a real animal?
That's a good question.
How many people have baby seals as opposed to how many people have dogs?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think that the designers chose an animal like this that's not something that people have familiarity with, simply because not everybody has a cat or a dog or owned a cat or a dog. Instead of being a reminder of something that was familiar, it's designed to be something that's simply pleasant.
We have to start with the premise that I am not an animal person. If somebody brought me a live puppy or a live cat, I would probably not be very happy with it, because I'm not necessarily a lover of animals, and I would not look to an animal for comfort. But that's me. So I have questions that go past having a comfort animal brought to me, and enjoying the interaction with it for a period of time. I don't know. I don't know if I would want. Well,
so today you wouldn't want that, but we're not talking about you today. We're talking about somebody who is fairly severely demented. So what do you think about Uncle Alan, for example? Do you think that he would respond to something like this, or how he would respond?
I don't know, because he did not grow up with pets. I think that's something that you have to keep in mind. I don't know how he would react, because, as I say, in all our growing up years, we lived in the same house with the same set of circumstances. He never looked for a pet, and I certainly never did, because it was just not in our purview that we would have pets.
It doesn't so much matter what a person's history was or relationship with animals, because where they are today in terms of their memory and ability to interact with the world is very, very different from who they were and who they were growing up. So the kind of experience that people have on a day-to-day basis is very much in terms of like what's in front of them, and it's tactile and it's emotional.
Yeah,
and you know what I mean? And I think you saw this as Uncle Alan was progressing, that it was less and less about his work and his career and his family, and more about what he was eating and what he was wearing and where he was sitting.
But I don't know if he would be if someone, if you or Margie brought him a comfort animal, or somebody from facility would bring a comfort animal to him, how he would react. He might have a positive reaction to it, and want to stroke it and nuzzle it and whatever. but I'm not sure because I don't know what his reaction is to new people and new experiences. So for me, and having never had a pet, it makes it a little bit more, that much harder to drill down to how he would react to it. It's possible that he would have a very positive reaction. This is a very cute little guy.
Isn't it very cute?
She. You might want to put a ribbon around this one's neck so that you can... No, I'm serious. You could put a pink ribbon or a blue ribbon so people could make a connection to the identity of the animal.
Interesting. So you want to put a gender on it?
Well, not specifically, but by color.
Hey, listen, I got to get going.
Let me know when this goes public.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Love you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. To learn more about The Gerontologist and to read its latest articles, visit the journal website at geron.org. The Gerontological Society of America was founded in 1945 to promote the scientific study of aging, to encourage exchanges among researchers and practitioners from the various disciplines related to gerontology, and to foster the use of gerontological research informing public policy.